and a very good day to my lecturer and my friends. My name is Aiman Dalila Fatasyah binti Rozman, and I'm a student from HM2523B1, and my matrix number is 2021112437. My topic for today is women's rights in 21st century. So, women's rights are all entitled to human rights. This includes the rights to live free from violence and discrimination, which is to enjoy the highest attainable standards of physical and mental health, to be educated, to own property, to vote, and to earn an equal wage. But across the globe, many women and girls still face discriminations on the basis of sex and gender. Gender inequality underpins many problems which disproportionately affect women and girls, such as domestic and sexual violence, lower pay, lack of access to education, and inadequate healthcare. For many years, women's rights movements have fought hard to address this inequality, campaigning to change laws or taking to the street to demand their rights and respected. And today I would like to show to you about women's rights in 21st century. The 2020 event is built around the theme Each for Equal, focusing on the efforts being made worldwide to close the equality gap, to fight the bias, and to counteract stereotypes. Since International Women's Day has begun in 1911, great strides have been made in empowering women and in offering them the same opportunities as men. Women have become world leaders, with former Sri Lankan Prime Minister Sirimavo Bandaranaike the first to mark the milestone and taken leading roles in major companies, including Carly Fiorina at computer giant Hewlett-Packard. And women have won prestigious awards in the sciences and arts. For instance, physicist Marie Curie have won her second Nobel Peace Prize in the year of International Women's Day was launched, while Catherine Bigelow became the only female to win the Best Director Oscar almost a century later. Now, looking at the graph from World Economic Forum over here, this is how women's rights have progressed. Change has been a long time coming, as this timeline shows. 1893, New Zealand becomes the first nation to enshrine full female suffrage, though women are not allowed to stand for election until 1990. At 1897, the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies is formed in the UK, later to be led by Millicent Fawcett. In 1894, the UK permits single women to vote in local election, a key stage in the eventual granting of equal suffrage rights in 1928. In 1920, the US amends its constitution to allow women to vote across the country, after Utah set the ball rolling in 1896 for individual states to enact their own laws. In 1986, Switzerland permits women to vote in nationwide polls. In 2015, Saudi Arabian women vote for the first time in local election. And yet, still much more needs to be done, as this year's edition of the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Report highlights. The headline statistic illustrates the uphill struggle women face despite improvements made since the survey's inception 14 years ago. it will still take almost a century before women can expect to achieve equality with men. That means almost no woman alive today will experience gender parity. So this is the photos of a moment to celebrate progressive policies for women's rights around the world. Women all over the world are finally getting the rights they have long fought for, but there is still a lot of work to do. This Women's History Month, let's take a moment to recognize the history being made in front of us. In Saudi Arabia, women can fight now legally. That's the headlines. Through the admissions process that opened in February, women between 21 and 40 years old may join the Saudi Arabia Armed Forces, from the Navy to air defense to medical services, marking a key moment for a country where women only gained the basic right to drive in 2018. But this step forward should be taken with a grain of salt. Activist Lujan Al-Hatlul, who fought the right to drive, was imprisoned in 2018 and only released last month, spending 3 years locked up even after her efforts to get women behind the wheel were successful. Whether the military will actually charge remains to be seen, but women's rights group will definitely be watching. And for Mexico, protection for women with disabilities. In February, the Mexican Senate passed a measure that women's disabilities must be taken into account when courts decided whether to grant protection to victims of violence. This marked a huge win for several advocate groups of women with disability who sent in the legislative proposal to the Senator Malu Mitchell themselves. But this wasn't the only demand they had. Other proposals sent to their chair of the Commissions for Gender Equality called for more disability-friendly shelters and support services, including personal assistance in daily tasks and emergency systems for the hearing impaired, which still remain under consideration. And for the Lebanon, defining harassment. Up until 2017, rapists in Lebanon could get off scot-free by agreeing to marry their accusers. It took years of billboards, slogans, and livid Lebanese activists to end this oppressive, disturbing tactic. Now, with the new legislation enacted in December, sexual harassment has been criminalized for the first time in Lebanon. The law provides a clear definition of sexual harassment that also acknowledges online harassment. Those accused can face up to 4 years imprisonment and harsh fines, and victims and testifying witnesses are guaranteed protection. Lebanon has also made fundamental changes to its domestic violence law, which is abuse by an ex-husband will now be treated as domestic violence, and mothers who leave their husband because of the abuse may take custody for their children until they are 13 years old. That's all from me. Thank you, and respect women, treat women equally, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.